Hi, everyone. I'm Randall from Randall's ESL Cyber Listening Lab, always providing tips on language learning, culture, and human development. And since I started the website back in 1998, I've experimented with a number of different features, new ideas, new directions, and I want to share one of these with you. So, one of the newest parts and sections of my website deals with idioms, and I'd like to show that to you. Again, keep in mind that this part of the website is still evolving, still changing and expanding, but I want to give you at least a preview of the site. So, what I want to go is I want to go over to listening activities, and you want to look in this drop down menu for a section called idioms. I click on idioms, and then it's going to take me to this particular part. Now, people might ask, well, Randall, what are you doing with this new section of your website, and how is it connected to listening? Well, if I scroll down, you'll see, and I suggest everyone take a look at these first, a series of questions. These questions probably will evolve and change over time. But if you click, for example, it says, what is the purpose of these activities? You click on that link, and then it will open up and explain a little bit. Part of this, I've selected different idiomatic expressions often found in North American English. Keep in mind that from place to place, they might be more common than others. Also, I wanted to include sample sentences. I'm going to show you in a minute. Sample sentences so students not only know the meaning, like piece of cake, but they actually know how to use it. They've seen enough examples to know how to apply it accurately. In addition, I'm weaving in conversation questions and providing speaking opportunities for students to use it. And I think I can show that in a minute. Also, sometimes it says, how do I know whether these idioms are used a lot or not? Again, how do I know if these idioms are used in everyday speech? And so, what I've tried to do, I've tried to interview different native speakers and indicate whether it's used a lot, it might be used somewhat, or it's not used very much. Now, why would you want to learn an idiom that is not used very much? Well, often you might find those idioms in reading materials, in books, in newspapers, and in other contexts. This is somewhat a subjective measure, but at least students will have some idea of how often they're used. The next question is how can teachers use these activities effectively in the classroom? These activities I'm going to show you, number one, can be used and learned on your own, but also I want to give teachers an opportunity to say, you know what, I could add this particular activity to the classroom, to my classroom instruction so that students can understand these better. And then the last question right here is, what is the timeline for this project? Well, right now I'm in the early stages of development, but I'm hoping that I will add over time 1 or 2 a week. So again, you can read more about that, but let's take a look at one example of what this lesson looks like. And I'm going to look at a piece of cake. This is an expression that many people are aware of, but let's take a look at it. So I click on piece of cake. Each lesson, first of all, what it will do is it will give some type of meaning, a definition. I try to make sure the definitions are easy. It's not like the definition is more difficult than the expression. So I do that. Also, next, I try to indicate the level of frequency, keeping in mind that that level of frequency can depend on geographic location. It could depend on the age of the user and so forth, the age of the speaker and so forth. Next, I'm going to have some type of video. Either it's going to be me or it's going to be me and me. In other words, I sometimes play the role of two people. It's a very short video, usually about a minute long, to kind of give you a definition and an example of how the expression is used. Now, many people might ask, well, are you going to have other voices on there? I may include other voices. I certainly can see a good reason for having that. Right now, it's just time. I think I'm able to create these videos, and I think in a very informative way, but just a matter of how much time I have. Next, which I think is really important right here, is sample sentences. In other words, the student will actually, or the learner will actually look at samples in which this idiomatic expression is used. For example, for some students, learning a new language is a piece of cake. Or the next one, living in a new country isn't going to be a piece of cake for my brother. So what I try to do is I give enough examples so that the learner can say, oh, I can see how that idiom is used. The next part I think is really important. And this is where you have like a partner that you're working together, or you could do this by yourself. You can talk to yourself as well, or in the classroom. For example, question is, has learning English been a piece of cake for you? Or if you really had to struggle, or have you really had to struggle? So what the idea of this is that number one, it includes the idiomatic expression, but it encourages the students to actually practice this, actually have conversation with someone else. The second question says, name a skill that you want to learn, but you don't think it will be a piece of cake to do so. For example, some people might say, you know what, I really want to learn how to snow ski. I've never snow skied in my life. In my country, we don't even have snow, perhaps, but it's something I really would like to do, but it might be difficult because I don't have many opportunities to do so. So those are the conversation questions. The next part is actually speaking situations. And this, the idea in each case is to provide opportunities for the learner to practice, to see it used again and again. So in this particular case, your best friend wants to study in the United States, but she is afraid that she won't be able to make friends because she isn't very outgoing. You feel that making friends in a new country often isn't a piece of cake, but it is possible. Give 3 suggestions on how to find new friends. So again, a speaking situation. And then what I do is I often give a possible answer, kind of an example of what the student could say. So again, that's that section of the website. So you can see it starts with a definition, then it gives sample sentences, then it gives practice questions, and then it leads off into situations. The last part of each one is what I call a language activity. And sometimes I find that students, well, they look at the idiomatic expression, but once again, they don't know how to use it exactly. They don't know how to tie the phrase to the grammar, how to connect them, how to make meaningful conversation that is clear to the native speaker. So what I've done in this section is I give generally 3 questions. The first example says, learning English, always a piece of cake for some students. Then in this particular case, you look at several examples. Aren't a piece of cake, doesn't a piece of cake, isn't a piece of cake. So what the student has to look at, what grammar is going to fit best for this sentence. So in this particular case, it would be learning English isn't always a piece of cake. And there might be some type of explanation, like we need to use the simple present tense in the sentence. Then we go on to the next one. Tomorrow's test. We see tomorrow indicating the future. Oh, maybe it's will. Is going to be. If I select will, good try. Actually, what you need is will plus the verb in this particular case. And then the last one is alive for many years. So again, you're saying, oh, I need the present perfect tense, right? Hasn't been a piece of cake for many years. So in this particular case, what I'm trying to do is again, tie grammatical structure to the idiom so students can see the ideas again and again. So going back up, number 1, again, having the meaning, showing a short video where students can listen to the expression, often in an interesting dialogue, usually me and my counterpart, me. I often wear a pair of glasses to pretend like I'm my father. Then again, it goes over sample sentences, conversation questions to actually practice it, and then situation. So it goes from very, let's say, very structured practice to semi-structured, and then over to the speaking situation, trying to make things more authentic. So that's just a little note about this particular section on my website on idioms. Certainly, I will be posting more information as time goes on of how this project evolves. So I hope that gives you an idea of what I'm doing right now. Feel free to send me a message with comments, with suggestions on how I can make that more meaningful to you. And if you go back, let me just step back here. Again, you find this under the section called idioms. And again, right here, you see a number of the ones I've created so far. So again, thank you very much for watching the video, finding out more what I'm doing. And I look forward to hearing your ideas and comments about this part of the website.